Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 79 in our incredible new tutorial series where you are unleashing the power of your Raspberry Pi Pico W. What I will need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Sunfounder. Sunfounder is actually sponsoring this most excellent series of video lessons. And in this class, we will be using the Kepler kit for Raspberry Pi Pico W. Now, hopefully most of you guys already have your gear, but if you don't, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to Amazon, and you can hop on over there and pick your kit up. And believe me, your life and my life are going to be a whole lot simpler if we are working on identical hardware. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what I am going to teach you today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my solution to the homework assignment I gave you in lesson number 78. But I must start by asking, were you successful? If you were able to do it, leave a comment down below. I am legend, double chest bump. And if you were not successful, leave a comment down below. I folded up like a cheap Walmart lawn chair. Now, hopefully most of you guys were able to do it, and hopefully you had a little bit of fun doing it, because we were really combining kind of like three things that we learned in earlier lessons. Let me go ahead and get out of your way here. And then what I will do is I will come over here and let's look at our circuit. Now, what we had done last week is we had the NeoPixel array connected up to the Raspberry Pi Pico W, and we had the infrared sensor and remote hooked up. And then today what we did was add the OLED. Let me just give you a brief recap of how this is hooked up. On the NeoPixel, the red wire is coming to physical pin 40, so it's getting its voltage from this USB connection. And then over here at physical pin 38, I create the ground rail, and then the NeoPixel is connected to the ground rail right there. And then the yellow wire is the control wire, and the yellow wire is connected up here to GPIO pin 0. So that's the NeoPixel. Now on the IR remote, when the hemisphere is pointed towards you, when the little bubble is pointed towards you, the leftmost pin is the control pin, and we have that hooked up to, I believe, GPIO 17, but I'm going to look because I don't want to mislead you. I think it is GPIO pin 17. Yes, indeed it is. And then the center pin comes down to the ground rail, and the right pin comes over to the 3.3 volt rail. Now, what you'll notice that the IR sensor is running on 3.3 volts over here, but the NeoPixels have to have 5 volts, so we have to hook that here. If you try to run the NeoPixel off of the 3.3 volt rail, it doesn't work, or at least mine doesn't work. Now let's talk about getting the OLED connected. The leftmost pin is ground. It comes up to the ground rail. And then you notice that I jumper the 3.3 volts up here to this. So this now is also a power rail. And then that second pin goes up to the 3.3 volts. And then we have connected to GPIO pin. We have GPIO pin 2. We have GPIO pin 2 connected to, I want to say it right, GPIO pin 2 is connected to SDA, and GPIO pin 3 is connected to SCL. So SCL is 3 and SDA is 2. So I think that should be everything that you need in order to get this working. Now, I don't want to go and develop the code completely from scratch, so let's go over and let's see if we can call up the most excellent www.toptechboy.com laptoptechboy.com. We'll need you to use the happy little search icon here and search on something like Control NeoPixel Array with infrared remote. This is the code we ended up with last week, but go ahead and get it again just in case. I don't know if I'd done a little bit of an adjustment on it or not, but let's make sure we're starting with identical software. And now let's make sure this works. And so I'm going to run it. Okay, now I'm going to get the remote. I press power to initiate the command. I press 1 to give the command, and then EQ, boom, I get red. Power 2 EQ, I get green. Power 3 EQ, I get blue. Power 4 EQ, I get the running rainbow. And then power 5 EQ, I get the single rainbow on all pixels. And then I do the power 6 EQ, and then I get the running blue. And then power 0 will shut everything off, and then power 1 will put everything back on, the red back on. And now if I do a Control C over here, if I do a Control C, I terminate cleanly and the NeoPixel turns off. So all of that is really good. So what are we ready to do? We're ready to come up here and see if we can get this OLED working. And what we want to do is, instead of looking over here at our window, we want to be interacting with the user through the display and through the little remote. And so really, you shouldn't have to look at your serial monitor. You shouldn't have to look at your computer screen. We should be able to interact with it with that. So in order to do that, what we're going to need to do is, up here besides pin, we're also going to need to import I to C, and the capitalization is important. Okay, then we're also going to need to, from SSD 1306, we're going to need to import uppercase SSD 1306 and then underscore I to C, like that. Okay, now it was in lesson number 25 that I showed you how to install the OLED library. And so if you haven't done that, you don't have the library, you need to go back and look at lesson number 25 and figure out how to do that. So we've got that all looks good. Now we need to come in and we need to go ahead and we need to define our I2C object, which is going to be I2C, the method that we just imported, and we're going to be on channel 1. And then we said SDA is equal to pin what? We said that was connected to pin 2, GPIO pin 2. SCL is connected to pin 3, like that. And then I think at that point we should have the I2C bus activated. Now we've got to create the OLED object, and that is going to be SSD 1306 underscore I2C. That looks good. And we tell it that it is 128 columns by 64 rows. And how do we talk to it? Through the object that we just created, which is the I2C object. Okay, let's run that and just make sure that we didn't get any errors when we did that. Okay, no errors. That's good. So we've got our libraries. Everything is going good. Now, when I am working with this OLED, when I'm working with the OLED, I don't want to be doing a lot of OLED work down in my main code. I want to define some functions, and I'll call those functions. So now what I need to think about is OLED. We're in our OLED zone, and then we don't have to be in our OLED and our infrared and our NeoPixel zone at the same time. So I'm going to define OLED display. You know what? I'm going to do one other thing first. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say OLED dot fill. I'm going to fill it with zeros. Okay. And then I'm going to say OLED dot show. I'm going to show it just to make sure that we're talking to this thing. So let's run that. What did I do wrong? Line 10. I can't have that line dangling there. So let's try this. And we run it, and we didn't get the OLED to turn on. Why is our OLED not turning on? I filled it with zeros. I want to fill it with ones. Okay, so we're going to do that, and boom. Okay, we're talking to the OLED, and then you notice when I terminated the program, this didn't turn off. So let's go and just take care of a clean exit down here on the accept keyboard interrupt. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead here. We're going to go ahead here, and then we are going to say OLED.fill. And yes, this time we want all zeros in it, and then OLED.show like that. And now let's run this. Okay, we run it and it turns on, and then I do a Control C and it turns off. Okay, so that is working good. We're going to come back up here, and I'll give you a little bit of a pro tip here. Okay, we want to take this out now because we don't want to always start with that like that. So now I'm going to define some OLED functions. I'm going to define OLED display 1. So what do I want in display 1? Well, I want an OLED.fill with 0. So I always want to clear my matrix, and then I want to OLED.text. And then what do I want to do? I want to give the user some instructions. When the program runs, he should be getting his instructions from the little screen. Now, I'll give you a hint. We're going to have to do a lot of abbreviation, so we don't have a lot of pixels to work with here. So I'm going to call this the NeoPixel control. Okay, like that. We're going to put that at column 0, row 0, like that. And then I'm going to say OLED.text. And then we're going to tell the user that he needs to press power, like that. We'll put that on row 0, or column 0, row 12. And that should be like the next line down. Then we're going to say OLED.text. And then we're going to say select program 0 through 6, like that. Okay, and then we're going to put that at column 0, row 24. That looks good. And then OLED.text. And then where are we going to put it? We're going to say then press EQ, the EQ button on the remote. So we tell him to press power, then what program he wants, and then EQ. Okay, and that will need to be on column 0, row 36, like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, what do we not want to forget? OLED.show, like that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run that. I'm just going to run that to see OLED display 1. I'm going to go ahead and run that OLED display 1 just to get things started. And now let's run this and let's see if we get that on the screen. So let's come over here and then let's run this, and we get an error. What is my error in line 14? Line 14. You guys saw that. I'm getting in too big of a hurry. This is a little bit of a long lesson, so I forgot. Yeah, I think that's 36, right? Yeah, so that's right. Now let's run it, and then let's watch here, and I got another error. What on earth am I doing? Oh, I see. I didn't do that. Okay, I am getting into too big of a hurry. We run it, and look at that. So let's come back over here so you can see it, and hopefully you can read this. It says NeoPixel control. Press power, select program 0 through 6, and then press equal. Okay, so that looks really good. That looks good. So let's come back over here. Let's make another one. Now, I think when you run the program, you're going to want that. So I'm going to leave that call in there. But I'll now define OLED display 2. Now, if the guy presses power, we need to tell him, once it sees that he's pressed power, now we got to tell him what? We got to tell him to press 0 through 6, okay? And so I think what I can do is I can probably copy this code here, like this, and then I can put it down here like that, and just I would start at 0, Okay, I would start at row 0 and then I would go to row 12. Okay, so first of all it says press power, then enter 0 through 6. Okay, that's good. He presses power. Now we remind him to press 0s through 6 and then press equal. Okay, we've reminded him of that. And then we need to OLED.text or OLED.show, like that. And then we always need to start with an OLED fill 0, OLED.fill with zeros, because we don't know who's been using the display or what might be on it. Okay, now when he presses equal, we need to tell him what program he is running, right? So we're gonna come up here, and now we're gonna do define OLED display 3, okay, and then what that is going to do is OLED.fill, and then what we're going to do is fill with zeros, and then we're going to say OLED.text, and then what is the text? The text is running program, and then comma 0, comma 0, all right. And then we're going to say OLED.text. What program is he running? He is running the string of the CMD. Okay, and I'll show you that in just a minute, and that will be 0, comma 12. So you remember CMD is the variable that keeps track of, CMD is the variable that keeps track of what we entered. So it is the first element in, like I have power and then a number and then enter. That number will be the 0th element, or the 1 element, and we put that in CMD. Okay, so it should, at this point, it should know what CMD is by the time that button is pressed. It should know what CMD is by the time that button is pressed. So we just do that. Okay, now we're going to do an OLED.text, and then what are we going to do? We're going to say press power to, and then comma 0, comma 36, like that. Okay, OLED.text, and then we are going to say press power to select new, and that is going to be 0, comma 48, or no, that's 0, 12, this one was 24, and then this one is 36, like that. Okay, and then we're going to OLED.text, and then we're going to say program, like that, and then that is going to be 0, comma 48, like that. Okay, now let's run those other ones just to see if they're going to work. And so I'm going to Control C, and boom, it cleared it. And now instead of doing display 1, I'm going to do display 2 just to make sure that it's going to work. But I would need a CMD or it's going to crash. So I'll put in up here a CMD equals 0. Remind me to take that out. Okay, but now I'm going to run display 2, and let's see what happens. See if we got any errors in there. That's not going to like that. That should be all. I should use either single quotes or double quotes and not mess around between them. Okay, and it says here, what it says is select program 0 through 6. So this is assuming that the user, at this point, the user has pressed power, and so now it's telling him to select program 0 to 6 and then press EQ. Okay, so that's exactly what we wanted that one to say. And then let's look at program number 3. Okay, and now program number 3 is going to say, it is going to say nothing at all because we didn't show it. I was going to try to get through this without forgetting OLED.show, like that. Now we are going to run it, and then look at what it says. It says running program 0, press power to select new program. Okay, so you see that's the instructions that he needs. So I'm going to take that command 0 out because I put that in just to test this out. And when the program starts, we want it to run number 1. Okay, we want it to run OLED display 1. Now we come down and we start doing things with the pixels. Okay, you know that. And then we do this conversion where we can convert an HSV value to an RGB value, and then we return the RGB value. Now we have already imported everything that we need for the IR sensor, and then we come in and we do the IR direct. Okay, that's all good. And then we set up things for the infrared, and then we come in here and we have the callback function. And just remember that we don't do that while command ready or whatever here anymore, because we just make command ready true here, and then the command is equal to the new command, and that is set right here. If that makes sense, the command is set right here. So command changes on the fly anytime that it sees that EQ button switched. I'm going to clear out of this control, out of this, so I turn the screen off. Okay, that all looks really good. Okay, that all looks really good. Now, where do we need to actually do something? Where do we need to actually do something? Okay, we need to start thinking about, you know, how we're going to start putting those commands in, and where we are going to want to put those commands in is that down here in our callback function, we're going to come up to our callback function. Okay, now 69 is the power button. So if the user presses the power button, as soon as he does that, what do you want to do? OLED display 2. Okay, because it's got the power button. Now you got to tell him to press the number and then press EQ. Okay, so we want to make sure to do that right there. Now, I don't think we need to do anything else in the callback. It's just when it sees power, tell him to press the program number and then tell him to press the EQ. Okay, we have given him the initial instructions, yes, and then after the initial instructions, we have told the user to, after he presses power, to then go ahead and press the next button. And then once he has done all of that, then what do we want to do? We want to OLED.fill with zeros. Okay, now he's pressed enter, so we're going to fill with zeros, and then we are going to, well, actually we just call that. We don't have to do all that. What we just do is we call OLED display 3. Like that, we called that there. And then I think if I do that, then it'll show that command when we press enter. So let's just try this. So we're going to run it, and let's come over here. Okay. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press power. When I press power, it says select program 0 through 6, then press enter. So I'm going to say program 2. Okay. And then equal, and then it goes to green. Now it says running program 2, that's good. Press power to select new program. So then I'm going to press power, and then I'm going to press 3, and then I'm going to press equal, and then running program 3, press power to select new program. Okay, did I ever use, yeah, I used the first one. Okay, I used the first one over here. I used the first one just to get started. Okay, then the second one says you press power, now go ahead and finish. And then once I hit enter, then it does this. And then I think that's all I have to do. Okay, I really think that that is all I have to do. Now let's come over here and see if I do a Control C. We exited cleanly and we turned everything off. So let's run this, okay? And let's come over here. I was thinking that I hadn't used all 3 functions, but I had. NeoPixel control, press power, I press power. Now it says 0 through 6, I'm going to press 1 and enter, okay? Now it says running program 1. Now I can press power, and I can press 2, and I can press equal, and then I get green, power 3, equal, and I get blue, and 3 is running. Press 4, and then enter, and then I'm running the running rainbow, and then I press 5, and equal, and it moves over to the single rainbow, and then I run 6 and equal, and then I get the running blue dot. Okay, guys, do you see? We're not even looking at the screen anymore. We're not looking at the computer screen. We are just looking at this little thing. Okay, now I can also come in and press power 0 and then equal, and it turns 0 on, which basically, program 0 basically clears everything out. I can come back to, I think that is the running rainbow. Yeah, that is the running rainbow. And then if we come back over here, and do a Control C, we cleanly exit. Okay, guys. Now you might have done something different than this. There's a lot of fancier things you can do, but what I'm just trying to show you is I'm trying to show you how you can get started. We have a display that gives information to the user, and then we have a remote that gets information from the user, and now we are to the point that really we could almost go completely mobile. Now you might think, I'll use the little rechargeable battery and run this thing completely separated from the cord here, but unfortunately this battery doesn't provide 5 volts, and so if we plug this battery in, it's not enough voltage to run the NeoPixel. So we would have to somehow, if we wanted to completely disconnect from the computer, we could use this to run the display, the IR sensor, and the Pico W. But then what we would need is a power supply, 5 volts, to power the NeoPixel. Okay, guys, I hope you are having as much fun taking this class as I am making them. As always, I want to give a big thank you to you guys that are supporting me on Patreon. You're the ones that are keeping these great lessons coming. Thank you. You can also help me by giving me a thumbs up and leaving a comment down below. That will boost my YouTube juice, and this video will be shown to more people. Also, if you haven't already, subscribed to the channel. When you do, ring that bell so you get notifications when future lessons drop. And as always, share this video with other people, because the world needs more people doing engineering and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.